You're calling the police over $40 before you even check the register? Marcus Reed asked. The mini-market went still. His 8-year-old daughter, Nia, gripped his navy delivery jacket and whispered, "Dad, that's our gas money." Marcus placed 2 worn 20s beside receipt 418 while Vanessa Cole's phone filmed him. Aaliyah stood pale behind the register, and Derek Sloan covered a torn strip of paper with one careful hand. "There is no receipt 417, Derek said. 3 hours earlier, Marcus had counted $43 beneath the yellow dome light of his aging delivery van. 40 had to carry him until Friday. The other 3 were folded singles for whatever Nia might need before then. He slid the money into his worn leather wallet, tucked his wedding ring back beneath his shirt where it hung from a thin chain, and watched his daughter climb into the passenger seat with her purple backpack pressed against her chest. She had stayed late at the after-school program again. Marcus apologized. Nia said it was okay in the careful voice children used when they knew a parent was already carrying too much. His final delivery took them across East Point beneath a sky darkened by low clouds and airplane lights. By 9, the fuel warning glowed steadily on the dashboard. Marcus stopped at Brooks Market No. 7 for a bottle of water, a carton of milk, and the cheapest crackers he could find. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed above polished tile. The air smelled of burnt coffee, floor cleaner, and fried chicken cooling beneath a heat lamp. Aaliyah Brooks stood at Register 2 in a green apron, moving slowly enough to show she was new but carefully enough that every bill faced the same direction. She greeted Nia first. That small kindness made Marcus look at her twice. Near the counter, Vanessa Cole tapped a manicured nail against receipt 416 and complained that the line had taken 6 minutes. Her perfume reached Marcus before her voice did. Derek Sloan appeared from the office wearing a pressed white shirt and a narrow blue tie. He smiled without warmth, apologized to Vanessa, and told Aaliyah he needed to close her drawer for a routine count. Nothing in. His tone sounded cruel. That was what made the moment feel wrong. He counted once, then again behind the raised edge of the register. Aaliyah stood with both hands flat on the counter. Marcus noticed her right thumb rubbing the corner of her employee badge. $40 short, Derek announced. Aaliyah blinked. That can't be right. I'm sure we can resolve this quietly, he said, placing a printed form before her. Sign the reimbursement acknowledgement, replace the cash, and we may be able to avoid involving law enforcement. Vanessa lifted her phone before Aaliyah could answer. Tasha Green drifted over from the next register, concern arranged neatly across her face. She has seemed nervous around the drawer, she offered. Aaliyah looked from the form to the office door. Please count it again. Derek's smile thinned. The store cannot ignore missing money because an employee is uncomfortable. Marcus heard Nia's crackers crinkle in her hands. He also heard the printer behind Derek give one short mechanical whine, followed by the dry sound of paper being torn. His own purchase went through moments later. The receipt slid warm into his palm. 418. Vanessa was still waving 416 as she argued about a coupon. Marcus looked from one number to the other. Then Derek announced that police were already on their way. Aaliyah's breathing shortened. She reached for the pen, not because she believed the accusation, Marcus realized, but because she was afraid of what refusing might cost. He opened his wallet. Nia saw the 220s before anyone else did. Dad? She whispered, pulling his sleeve. That's our gas money. Marcus placed the bills on the counter anyway. Seal it. Count again in the morning. But don't make her sign away her name tonight. Derek's eyes hardened for less than a second. Then his courteous expression returned. Sir, this is an internal matter. Marcus laid receipt 418 beside Vanessa's 416. Then your internal matter is missing a number. Derek moved his hand toward the printer. Too late. Beneath the edge of his palm, on the corner of a folded strip of paper, Marcus saw 3 black digits. 417. Marcus saw the 3 digits before Derek's thumb slid. Over them. Move your hand. Sir. Step away from the register. That paper says 417. The fluorescent lights hummed above them, steady and indifferent, while the folded strip disappeared beneath Derek's palm. For 1 second, Aaliyah's eyes moved from Marcus's receipt to Vanessa's, and something in her face tightened. Not belief yet, only the recognition that two numbers should not have an empty space between them. Derek lifted his hand, but the paper was gone. "You are mistaken," he said. He turned toward Vanessa with the polished calm of someone settling a customer complaint. "I apologize for the disruption. We are handling an internal cash discrepancy, and this gentleman has unfortunately involved himself without understanding our procedures." Vanessa angled her phone toward Marcus's faded navy jacket. The camera lens caught the worn delivery company logo, the grease shadow near one cuff, and the cracked leather edge of his wallet still open on the counter. "So you're a delivery driver," she said, loud enough for the people near the refrigerated cases to hear. "And you're paying a cashier's shortage with your gas money?" Nia's fingers tightened around his sleeve. "Dad, can we go?" Marcus looked down at her. The purple backpack sat crooked on one shoulder, and the unopened crackers were pressed against her chest. He adjusted the strap gently, then moved her behind his right side, away from Vanessa's camera. "Soon," he said. "Stay close to me." Derek gave Nia a sympathetic smile that never reached his eyes. "This is exactly why I'm trying to resolve the matter quickly. A child should not be kept here because two adults refuse to follow store policy." The sentence landed softly, almost kindly, but it placed the blame exactly where Derek wanted it, on Marcus for staying and on Aaliyah for refusing to sign. Tasha folded her hands over her green apron. "Maybe we should all calm down," she said. "Aaliyah, if you replace the money tonight, management can review everything tomorrow. That might be the safest choice for everyone." "I didn't take it." "No one said you did." Derek tapped the reimbursement form with one clean fingernail. "This only acknowledges that your drawer was short, and that I accepted responsibility." Aaliyah's voice remained low, but her left hand had begun to tremble against the counter. Above her head, the red and white sign read "Our people, our family." Marcus watched Derek place the form directly beneath it. Vanessa gave a small laugh into her phone. "This is what happens when people want jobs they aren't trained for. Then some stranger comes in trying to play hero." She zoomed closer on the 220s. "Look at this. He probably has less money than she does." A few customers lowered their eyes. One man near the lottery machine pretended to study a ticket. No one asked Vanessa to stop. Marcus could smell her sharp floral perfume mixed with burnt coffee and the faint metallic scent of the open register drawer. "Are you trying to be a hero?" she asked him. "No." "Then what are you doing?" "Trying not to become another person who watched." The words did not silence her, but they changed the angle of Aaliyah's face. She looked at Marcus fully now, as if measuring whether anyone would surrender $40 and a night's wages merely to look noble in front of a stranger. Derek stepped between them. "Mr. Reed, I am offering you a reasonable solution. Take your money back. Take your daughter home. In return, you sign a short statement confirming that the cashier agreed to cover the shortage before you disrupted the process." Marcus picked up the pen. Derek's shoulders loosened. Then Marcus laid it across the sealed envelope line without signing. "If I put my name on anything, it will say the money is disputed and no one admitted taking it." Derek's jaw shifted once. "You are not an attorney." "I didn't say I was." "You are not an auditor." "Didn't say that either." "Then allow trained people to do their jobs." Marcus glanced toward the office door. The small security monitor above it showed 4 camera views, but the square covering Register 2 had switched to a wider aisle angle. The counter was now partly hidden behind a display of gum and batteries. Vanessa's phone, however, was still raised. A red live icon glowed at the top of her screen, and beneath it a cloud symbol pulsed as the video uploaded. Marcus nodded toward it. "Keep recording." Vanessa blinked. "Excuse me? Don't cut anything." Not what she said. Not what he said. Not what was under his hand. Derek's expression remained composed, but his gaze flicked to the phone. "Filming employees without consent may violate company policy." "You thanked her for documenting the incident 30 seconds ago," Aaliyah said. It was the first time she had challenged him directly. Tasha looked at the floor. Vanessa lowered the phone an inch, then raised it again when she noticed several viewers commenting. Derek reached for the blue folder beside the printer. As he lifted it, the edge of a folded white strip appeared between 2 pages, then vanished when he pressed the folder against his chest. "There is no missing receipt," he said. The printer skipped a number. "The issue is the refund, not the paper." Marcus did not answer at first. Receipt 416 lay beside Vanessa's manicured hand. Receipt 418 rested beneath his own. Between them, the 220s waited inside a brown envelope that no one had yet sealed. Aaliyah's breathing stopped for half a beat. Marcus looked directly at Derek. No report had been printed. No one had identified the missing transaction. So how did Derek already know receipt 417 was a refund? Marcus kept his eyes on Derek. "You called it a refund. That is the most common cause of a shortage. Before you printed the report?" For the first time, Derek did not answer immediately. The fluorescent hum seemed louder in the space he left behind, and somewhere near the deli counter, a refrigeration unit clicked off with a tired shudder. Vanessa's phone remained raised. Its red live symbol reflected faintly in the glass of the lottery display. Derek placed the blue folder flat against his chest. "Mr. Reed, your speculation is delaying a routine process. Take your daughter home." Marcus glanced down at Nia. Her purple backpack had slipped again, and the crackers she held were bent across the middle from how tightly she had been gripping them. He crouched, straightened the strap, and brushed a crumb from the front of her sweater. "You hungry?" She shook her head too quickly. Her stomach answered with a small, hollow sound. Marcus reached into the side pocket of his delivery bag and found the granola bar he had been saving for the drive home. He broke the wrapper open and handed it to her without comment. "Half?" she asked. "All yours. But you didn't eat."
I'm okay.
He was not. The coffee he had swallowed before sunset had gone sour in his stomach, and the bottle of water on the counter was meant to be his dinner until the last delivery cleared. But Nia took one careful bite, watching him as children watched adults when they suspected kindness was covering a problem. Marcus stood and turned back to the counter. Aaliyah had picked up the reimbursement form. The pen hovered near the signature line. "Don't," Marcus said. Derek exhaled through his nose. "She is an adult." "I know. Then let her make her own decision." Aaliyah looked at Marcus. "If I sign, will they let you leave?" "Probably." "And give you back the $40? "Probably." Her eyes moved toward Nia. "Then maybe I should." Marcus took the pen gently from her fingers and set it beside the form. He did not tear the paper or push it toward Derek. A signature made under a threat doesn't make the numbers right. "You don't know me," Aaliyah whispered. "No. You don't know whether I made a mistake." "No." "Then why are you doing this?" Marcus felt the small weight of the wedding ring against his chest. Beneath his shirt, it rested on the thin chain he wore every day, warmed by his skin and polished smooth by 3 years of being touched whenever he needed to remember the kind of man his wife had believed he could remain. He did not tell Aaliyah about hospital rooms, final promises, or the first night Nia had cried herself to sleep because the house sounded wrong without her mother's voice. Those things were not currency. They did not make him more correct. He only looked toward his daughter, who was carefully folding the granola wrapper into a tiny square so she would not drop it on the floor. "She learns more from what I do when it costs me than from anything I tell her when it's easy." Aaliyah's grip loosened around the edge of the counter. Derek gave a restrained, almost pitying smile. A noble sentiment, but sentiment does not balance a drawer. Neither does forcing someone to sign before the drawer is checked. Marcus picked up the brown cash envelope Derek had left near the register. It was thin, ordinary, with a peel-away adhesive strip and a box for the amount. He turned it over once, making sure it was empty. Then he placed the 220s inside. "Write disputed cash hold across the front." Derek's eyes narrowed. "That designation is no longer used." Aaliyah looked up sharply. "It still exists in the loss prevention policy. Not in your training manual." I didn't say it was. A brief silence opened between them. Aaliyah took the marker from beside the register and wrote DCH in block letters, followed by $40 and the time. When she bent over the counter, a round brass badge slipped from beneath the collar of her green apron. It was no larger than a quarter, darkened at the edges with age. Marcus saw the letters B01 engraved across its face before Aaliyah tucked it back beneath the fabric. Derek saw it too. His hand tightened on the blue folder. That pin is not part of the approved uniform, he said. Remove it. Aaliyah touched the place where it rested. It doesn't interfere with my work. Remove it. His tone remained controlled, but the words came too fast. Marcus noticed Aaliyah's expression change. Not fear this time. Recognition. She removed the badge, but instead of giving it to Derek, she closed it inside her fist. Marcus folded the adhesive strip over the envelope and pressed the seam flat with his thumb. Someone should sign across the seal. Derek reached for it. Marcus moved it just beyond his fingertips. Not the person controlling the investigation. Vanessa gave a scoffing laugh. You really think your little signature matters? Not unless someone tries to open it. He signed across the seam in dark ink, then wrote 917 beneath his name. Nia leaned closer, still chewing. 917, Marcus said. Can you read that back for me? 917. Good. He handed her the pen, but not the envelope. Put a small dot beside the time, so we remember you checked it. Nia made one careful blue dot, then returned the pen. That was all Marcus asked of her. No accusations. No adult burden placed on small shoulders. Just a mark that said the envelope had existed, sealed and untouched, while she stood beside him. Aaliyah signed the opposite edge. Tasha hesitated, then added her initials beneath Aaliyah's name. Derek watched each stroke with a stillness that felt more tense than anger. This proves nothing, he said. Maybe not, Marcus replied. But now it can't be used to prove something false. His delivery app vibrated in his pocket. Final order at risk. Accept within 20 seconds. The pickup would have paid enough to replace the $40 and put fuel in the van. Marcus looked through the front windows at the dark parking lot, where his aging vehicle sat beneath a flickering light. He imagined the fuel warning glowing, the landlord's reminder folded on the kitchen counter, and Friday still 3 days away. The phone vibrated again. Nia watched him without speaking. Marcus pressed decline. A red notice filled the screen. Completion rate may affect future access. He locked the phone and slid it away. Aaliyah had seen the message. You just lost work because of me. Because I chose to stay. There's a difference? There has to be. Near the register, the POS screen flashed once. A small gray notification appeared in the upper corner. Corporate integrity alert received. Derek turned faster than anyone else. He tapped the screen, and the message vanished. Then he reached for the sealed envelope. Marcus placed 2 fingers over it. It stays where the camera can see it. Derek's professional smile returned, but the skin beneath his collar had reddened. Aaliyah looked from the blank corner of the screen to the old brass badge in her hand, then to the envelope Marcus had protected when taking back his money would have been easier. She still did not know whether he was right about receipt 417. But she understood something Derek had overlooked. Marcus had not merely given her $40. He had quietly created the first piece of evidence no one in that store could rewrite. The sealed envelope changed the room. Until then, Derek had been able to describe Marcus as a tired delivery driver who had confused kindness with authority. Now the 220s sat beneath the register camera with 3 signatures across the seam, the time 917 written in dark ink, and 1 small blue dot beside it. The money could no longer disappear into the drawer, and Aaliyah's silence could no longer be called an admission. Derek looked at the envelope as though it were an object someone had placed in the wrong house. This customer has interfered with a loss prevention matter, he said. The cash is no longer reliable evidence. It never entered the drawer, Marcus replied. That is exactly the problem. Then leave it sealed. Derek's voice remained calm, but he moved the blue folder closer to the envelope, partly blocking it from Vanessa's camera. The store had grown quieter. A cart wheel squeaked near the frozen food aisle. The fried chicken warmer clicked as its heating element shut off, leaving the smell of old grease beneath the sharper scent of floor cleaner. Nia stood close enough that the side of her backpack touched Marcus's leg. Derek turned toward Aaliyah. You need to stop following instructions from a customer. You are the employee under review. He didn't tell me what happened, she said. He told me not to sign something before it was checked, and that choice may now be viewed as insubordination. Tasha's face tightened, but she did not speak. Vanessa lowered her phone just enough to read the comments rising across the screen, then raised it again when the viewer count increased. People online think he planted the money, she said. Somebody said maybe they know each other. Aaliyah looked at Marcus as if the suggestion had forced her to consider a possibility she had not wanted to consider. He was a stranger. He had arrived at the exact moment her drawer came up short. He had offered the exact amount. He had asked for an old loss prevention designation most customers would never know existed. Suspicion did not make her cruel. It made her careful. Did someone send you here? She asked. Marcus did not flinch. No. Have you worked for Brooks Markets? No. Do you know anyone at this store? Only the people I met tonight. Derek gave a restrained nod, as if Aaliyah's questions proved his point. You see why unauthorized intervention creates confusion. Marcus looked at the 2 receipts still on the counter. Vanessa's 416 had a smear of pale lipstick near the total. His 418 was beginning to curl from the heat of the printer. He placed the unopened bottle of water across both pieces of paper to hold them flat. Print the transaction summary, he said. That will not tell you who took cash. I didn't ask who took it. Then what are you asking? Marcus pointed to the narrow space between the receipts. What happened between these 2 numbers? Derek glanced toward the office. The printer skipped. Then the system should still show the transaction. Not necessarily. Machines fail. The paper can fail. Does the electronic journal skip too? The question was simple enough that no one immediately answered. Aaliyah's gaze shifted toward the POS screen. She did not look convinced by Marcus. She looked troubled by the fact that Derek had not already produced the report. I can print an X-read, she said. You do not have authorization during an open investigation, Derek replied. My access is read-only. Aaliyah, it won't change anything. The brass badge marked B01 remained closed inside her left hand. Her right hand moved toward the keyboard, then stopped. She looked at the sealed envelope, at Marcus's receipt, and finally at Derek. If the machine skipped a number, the report should show that. Derek's jaw tightened almost invisibly. The report can be misleading when the printer has been malfunctioning. Marcus heard the phrasing. Not incorrect. Misleading. A word that left room for the numbers to exist while asking everyone not to trust them. Print it, Aaliyah said. That is a direct instruction from your manager. Then write me up after the drawer is audited. Derek took 1 step toward the terminal. Vanessa's camera followed him. The red recording light caught the shine on his tie clip and the pale edge of the blue folder pressed beneath his arm. Marcus did not block him. He only raised his phone and photographed receipt 416, receipt 418, the sealed envelope and the wall clock in one frame. It read 9:22. He emailed the image to himself without adding a message. What are you doing? Derek asked. Keeping the time. You are photographing proprietary materials. 2 customer receipts and my own money. Derek opened his mouth, then closed it. Aaliyah entered her employee number. The register gave a soft confirmation tone. She selected reports, then read-only audit. The small printer whirred. Every head near the counter turned toward the sound. The strip emerged slowly, line after line of gray text on white thermal paper. Derek reached toward it. Aaliyah caught the top edge first. Let me see that. You said it might be misleading. Exactly why I need to review it before you draw conclusions. Then we can all review it. She laid the strip beneath the fluorescent light. Marcus did not touch it. He leaned just close enough to read. The first lines showed ordinary sales. A bottle of detergent. Prepaid phone card. Vanessa's purchase at 9:01. Then one line sat apart from the rest. Cash refund.
$40.
Time. 9:03 p.m. User code. 2 hidden characters followed by a dash and 09. Nia looked from the wall clock to the paper, understanding only that the adults had stopped speaking. Is that before we got here? She asked. Yes, Marcus said. Aaliyah's finger moved to the lower section of the report, where the employee session times appeared. Her own register login showed 9:07 p.m. She read it twice. The difference was 4 minutes. Not enough to feel large in a normal evening. Enough to make the accusation impossible in the form Derek had presented it. I wasn't logged in, she said. Derek recovered quickly. An employee can still use another person's authorization. Whose? Marcus asked. That is what the investigation is for. Then why was she asked to sign before the investigation? Derek ignored him. He turned to Tasha. Was my manager card ever left near the office? Tasha swallowed. Sometimes. Could Aaliyah have taken it? I don't know. Aaliyah's expression hardened, but she did not raise her voice. I was in the break room until 7 after 9. According to you, Derek said. According to the time clock. Time clocks can be entered incorrectly. Again, the explanation was possible. That was what made it dangerous. Every fact could be made uncertain if the person controlling the system was allowed to call the system unreliable. Marcus looked at the report more closely. The code ending in -09 remained partly masked by the software, but the time was clear. So was the transaction type. Who can issue a cash refund? He asked. Managers, Aaliyah replied, or someone with a manager override. Derek reached for the strip. This report needs to be secured. Marcus placed no hand on him. He simply moved the bottle of water, allowing the receipt numbers beneath it to catch the full white light. 16. Between them, the X-read confirmed a refund at 9:03. Derek stopped reaching. The transaction was probably voided before 9, he said. The room slowed. Vanessa's phone remained fixed on his face. Aaliyah looked down at the report again. Marcus looked at the wall clock, then at the printed line. The refund had been created at 9:03. No one had mentioned a void. No one had mentioned a time before 9. Yet Derek had just supplied both. He took the key to the back office from his belt and turned toward the server room door. I need to restart the terminal before corrupted data spreads. Marcus did not stand in his way. He only lifted his phone so the camera showed the key in Derek's hand, the X-read on the counter, and the time above the register. Go ahead, he said quietly. But first tell everyone why a transaction printed at 9:03 had already been voided before 9. Marcus's question stopped Derek 2 steps from the server room door. Why would a transaction printed at 9:03 have been voided before 9? Derek's hand remained wrapped around the key. You are confusing the transaction time with the system process time. Then show us the process time. That information is restricted. So was the refund until you named it. The wheels of a shopping cart stopped squeaking near the frozen aisle. Vanessa's viewers continued sending comments across her screen, but even she had stopped reading them aloud. Beneath the fluorescent light, the X-read lay beside receipts 416 and 418, its thin paper trembling whenever the ceiling vent pushed cold air across the counter. Derek returned the key to his belt. His smile came back slowly, assembled one careful piece at a time. No one is hiding anything. We simply need to follow the correct process without turning an employee matter into public entertainment. Marcus looked at Vanessa's phone. That would have been a good rule before she pointed the camera at the cashier. Vanessa's lips parted. Derek moved quickly to soften the moment. Ms. Cole believed she was documenting a possible theft. She was trying to protect the store. Then let the same camera protect the truth. Aaliyah's eyes stayed on the partial user code printed on the X-read. 2 hidden characters, a dash and 09. There is a read-only manager directory, she said. It would show which active code ends in 09. Derek shook his head. Accessing management credentials during an investigation would be inappropriate. It won't show passwords, she replied. Only assigned identifiers. You are already under review. Then you operate it. Derek's face did not change, but the fingers beside his belt curled slightly. Marcus saw it. So did Aaliyah. She stepped away from the terminal and left the path open for him. It was a small test. No accusation. No forced confession. Just a screen that would either support Derek's explanation or make the missing 4 minutes harder to dismiss. There is no reason to perform an audit in front of customers, he said. Then close the store, Aaliyah replied. Preserve the evidence and do it with the police present. That would create unnecessary alarm. You already called the police. Derek glanced toward the entrance. The parking lot beyond the glass remained dark except for the white flash of headlights crossing the far end. No patrol car had arrived yet. Marcus lifted the bottle of water from the receipts and set it upright. You don't need anyone to believe me, he said. Run the directory. Derek looked at him. You seem unusually interested in our systems for a delivery driver. The words were polite, but the meaning beneath them was not. Marcus had spent years having people look at his hands and decide they understood the limits of his mind. Calloused fingers meant boxes, steering wheels, loading docks. They did not mean patterns, records, or judgment. He felt the old temptation to explain himself, to mention National Guard logistics rooms, shipment manifests, nights spent tracing one missing serial number through hundreds of entries. He let the temptation pass. The system can answer without knowing my resume. Aaliyah entered her employee number and opened the read-only audit menu. The terminal gave a low confirmation chime. Derek stepped closer. Do not access restricted fields. I'm not. 3 active manager identifiers appeared on the screen.
KM14.
TG22.
DS09.
No one spoke. The air conditioning unit above the customer service desk clicked on, and its steady rush filled the silence. Vanessa slowly aimed her camera at the screen. Derek lifted one hand. That proves only that the code belongs to me. Manager cards are sometimes removed from the office. Any employee could have used it. Was yours removed tonight? Marcus asked. I would have no way of knowing. Where do you keep it? In my desk when I'm not carrying it. Was the office unlocked at 9:03? Derek's eyes shifted toward Tasha. Staff members move through that office regularly. Tasha swallowed. Sometimes. Aaliyah opened the timekeeping panel. The time clock should show where we were. Time records are not location tracking, Derek said.
No, Marcus replied.
But they can tell us who was working. The report loaded slowly. Aaliyah's name appeared first. Clocked in at 8:55. Break room access until 9:06.
Pos login at pukul 97.
Tasha's line showed receiving area activity until 9:06. Derek's line showed manager office keycard entry at 8:59 and exit at 9:05. Tasha stared at the screen. Vanessa turned her camera toward her. You said you saw Aaliyah near the office. I thought I did. You said you saw her. I said she had been nervous. No, you said. Marcus raised one hand, not toward Tasha, but toward the phone. Don't put the camera in her face. Vanessa gave him a sharp look. She may have helped frame someone. Then let the record show that. Fear doesn't make better evidence. Tasha's shoulders lowered by half an inch. She looked at Aaliyah, then at Derek. I didn't see her take his card, she said. Derek's voice remained mild. No one asked you to say that. You asked if she could have. A possibility is not an accusation. But you wanted me to agree. The sentence hung between them. Derek placed both palms on the counter as if steadying the conversation. Everyone is tired. We are allowing fragments of data to create a story that may not be true. The responsible thing is to stop, secure the reports, and review them privately. Marcus studied the access log. It did not prove Derek had performed the refund. A card could be handed through a doorway. A timekeeping record could be incomplete. A camera angle could miss a person. The evidence had narrowed the field, but it had not closed it. He knew the danger of mistaking a strong suspicion for a finished truth. "He's right about one thing," Marcus said. Aaliyah turned toward him. Derek straightened. "This doesn't prove who held the card at 9:03. Vanessa made a frustrated sound. "After all that? It proves she wasn't logged into the register. Proves his code was used. Proves his office was locked while he was inside. That's enough to stop calling her a thief. It isn't enough to call him one." The words changed the room more than an accusation would have. Aaliyah looked at Marcus with a new kind of attention. He had been humiliated, dismissed, and nearly blamed for interfering, yet when evidence finally leaned in his direction, he refused to stretch it beyond what it could bear. Derek had expected anger. He had not expected discipline. Nia finished the last bite of her granola bar and slipped her hand into Marcus's. Her fingers were warmer now. "Can she keep her job?" she whispered. Marcus looked down at her. "We're trying to make sure nobody decides tonight without checking." At Brooks Market's corporate office 12 miles away, a silent alert opened on Samuel Brooks's tablet. The file contained the photograph Marcus had emailed, the X-read, and the manager directory showing DS09. Samuel's hand stopped above a stack of closing reports when he saw the brass edge of the B01 badge reflected beside Aaliyah's wrist. He did not call her. He did not call the store. He pressed the intercom button and asked Maya Chun from internal audit to enter his office. "Preserve the original server log," he said when she arrived. "The cloud video too. No one at the store is to know yet." Maya examined the timestamps. "Do you believe the cashier?" Samuel looked at the 4-minute gap. "I believe the gap exists." Back at Register 2, the terminal refreshed as the corporate server finished copying the records. A small notice appeared at the bottom of the screen. "Remote preservation complete." Derek saw it and went still. Aaliyah saw his reaction before she read the words. Then another line appeared beneath the manager directory. An exception history count attached to DS09. The code had not been used for one disputed refund. It had been used 7 times. The code had been used 7 times. For a moment, no one moved. The register printer stopped humming, and the sudden absence of sound made the air conditioning above customer service seem unnaturally loud. On the screen, DS09 sat beside a column labeled Exception History. 7 entries. 7 cash refunds. 7 amounts small enough to be dismissed as human error. Derek leaned toward the terminal. "That number does not mean what you think it means." "What does it mean?" Aaliyah asked. "Routine corrections. 7 of them? Across 6 months. That is not unusual." Marcus watched Derek's hand settle beside the keyboard without touching it. A thin line of moisture had appeared near his temple, though the store remained cold. He was not collapsing. He was adjusting, rebuilding the story before anyone else could understand the numbers. "Open the dates," Marcus said. Derek looked at him. "You have no authority to request internal records." "Then she can request them. She is under investigation, and your code is attached to 7 exceptions." Marcus did not raise his voice. "That sounds like a reason for someone else to review them." The terminal gave a soft chime before Derek could respond. "Remote audit session active." Aaliyah's eyes narrowed. A second window opened beside the exception count, locked against local editing. Dates appeared one by one. Each refund fell between $30 and $60. Each was entered within minutes of a new employee beginning or ending a shift. Each was followed by a reimbursement adjustment. Tasha took one step backward. Vanessa lowered her phone just enough to see the screen with her own eyes. "Those people paid the money back?" she asked. Derek straightened his tie. "Employees are responsible for shortages in accordance with signed acknowledgments." "Were the drawers audited first?" Marcus asked. "Each case was handled according to store procedure." "That wasn't the question." Derek's polite expression tightened. "I will not debate company policy with a customer." The automatic doors opened behind them with a rush of humid night air. A man in his early 60s entered beside a woman carrying a gray document case. He wore a charcoal jacket without a visible logo, and his silver hair was combed neatly back from a face that seemed calm until his eyes found Aaliyah. They stopped there for half a second. Not long enough for anyone unfamiliar with them to understand. Long enough for Aaliyah's fingers to close around the brass B01 badge in her palm. The woman beside him approached the counter first. "Maya Chun, internal audit," she said, showing identification. "No one touches the POS, the office computer, the cash envelope, or the camera system until preservation is complete." Derek's smile returned too quickly. "Ms. Chen, I wish someone had called me. We could have prepared the records privately. That would defeat the purpose." Maya set the gray case on the counter. The locks clicked open with two dry sounds. Inside were evidence sleeves, tamper seals, a small scanner, and printed copies of the remote server logs. Samuel Brooks remained a few steps behind her. His gaze passed over receipt 416, the X-read, the sealed $40 envelope, and receipt 418. Then he noticed the old brass badge in Aaliyah's hand. The muscles near his mouth shifted, but he said nothing. "Mr. Sloan," Maya continued, "please provide the manager override ledger and all cash shortage reimbursement files for the last 12 months. Derek's fingers moved toward the blue folder. "There is no need to expand this beyond tonight. We have one disputed transaction and an outside customer who has complicated the scene." Marcus felt Vanessa's camera turn toward him again. He could have pointed at Derek then. He could have said the 7 entries proved everything. He could have used the moment to repay every insult. Instead, he looked at Maya. "The records show a pattern," he said. "They do not show who held the card each time." Derek blinked. Aaliyah looked at Marcus with the same surprised stillness she had shown when he refused to call Derek a thief in Part 5. Maya gave one measured nod. "Correct. A pattern justifies investigation. It does not replace proof." Marcus stepped back from the counter. "Then protect the proof." Samuel's eyes moved to him for the first time. Not with gratitude. Not yet. With assessment. He took in the faded delivery jacket, Nia's hand inside Marcus's, the untouched envelope, and the orderly line of documents. "Who arranged those?" he asked. "I did," Marcus said. "Why?" "So no one had to remember the order differently tomorrow." Samuel looked down at the timestamps again. Something in his face became heavier. Maya scanned the exception report. "The reimbursements were processed through payroll or cash acknowledgement forms," she said. "Do you keep hard copies here?" "They should have been sent to corporate," Derek replied. Maya turned a page. "Corporate has only closure summaries." "Then HR must have misplaced them. The summaries say store-level resolution completed." Derek's hand rose to his collar. "That is standard wording." "Who completed the resolution?" "Management." "Which manager?" He did not answer. Maya opened the next file. Employee names appeared beneath the 7 dates. Most had worked fewer than 90 days. 2 were part-time students. 3 were single parents. One name made Marcus lean closer without meaning to. Lena Ortiz. He remembered her from the delivery hub 2 winters earlier. A small woman with strong forearms who used to trade routes with drivers when their children were sick. She had taken a grocery job after her car transmission failed. 3 months later, she vanished from the route group. Someone had said she was fired for stealing. Marcus stared at the amount beside her name. $52. "I know her," he said. Derek's eyes sharpened. "Then perhaps this is less random than you claimed. Knowing someone who worked here doesn't change your records. It raises the possibility of coordination." Marcus felt anger rise slowly, not hot enough to blind him but heavy enough to make his jaw ache. He pictured Lena avoiding old co-workers because a document somewhere called her dishonest. He pictured the same form Derek had pushed toward Aaliyah. He could have answered cruelty with cruelty. Instead, he took out his phone and found Lena's old number. "I'm calling her," he said. "You are not authorized to contact former employees about confidential matters." Maya closed the file. "He is contacting someone he knows. I will explain her rights if she chooses to speak." Marcus stepped away from the cameras before dialing. Lena answered on the fourth ring with suspicion in her voice. He did not tell her they had caught anyone. He did not promise repayment. I'm at Brooks Market 7, he said. Your name came up in a review of a shortage. You don't have to come. You don't have to speak. But if you still have any paperwork from that night, an independent auditor is here. Silence held on the line. Then Lena whispered, I kept the pay stub. 40 minutes later, she entered through the automatic doors wearing navy scrubs beneath an old denim jacket. She stopped when she saw Derek. Her face lost color. Vanessa lifted her phone, but Marcus moved between the lens and Lena without touching either of them. Not her face, he said. She didn't come here to become content. He guided Lena toward the employee break room, brought her a paper cup of water, and stayed outside while Maya explained the process. Nia sat in a plastic chair nearby, drawing small boxes on the back of an old grocery circular. She looked tired but no longer frightened. Aaliyah stood near the doorway with Samuel several feet away. Neither spoke to the other. The distance between them felt deliberate. When Maya returned, she carried Lena's folded pay stub inside a clear sleeve. A deduction line read cash shortage reimbursement, $52. Attached was a photocopy of a signed acknowledgement.
Lena's signature tilted sharply upward.
The signature on her driver's license curved down. I signed a blank attendance form, Lena said from the doorway. He told me it was for missing a shift. Derek's voice softened. Lena, memory becomes unreliable after months. I was trying to help you keep your position. You told me if I fought it, nobody else would hire me. The store went quiet again. Maya placed Lena's pay stub beside receipt 417's electronic record. Then she opened the corporate HR email chain. Every complaint had been sent back to Store 7 for local review. Every closure had been approved under Derek's manager credentials. Samuel read the final line twice. His reflection in the dark front window looked older than when he had entered. The company routed complaints about this manager back to this manager, Aaliyah said. Samuel did not defend the system. Yes. She opened her hand and placed the B01 badge on the counter. The old brass caught the fluorescent light. Then the first store means nothing. Samuel looked at the badge, and the restraint in his face finally cracked enough to show pain. It was supposed to mean we knew every employee's name. 7 people lost theirs. Maya continued through the exception file. The same reason code appeared on all 7 refunds. The same DS09 override. The same sequence. Refund before login, shortage discovered later, reimbursement signed, complaint closed locally. Derek took out his phone. I need to contact legal counsel before this goes any further. You may contact counsel, Maya said. You may not remove records. This should be handled privately. It was handled privately 7 times. Derek looked toward Samuel, apparently deciding he was the highest-ranking person in the room. Sir, whoever you are, this customer has inflamed a routine employment issue. The cashier has unusual knowledge of outdated procedures. These former employees may be coordinating. I recommend we separate everyone and suspend discussion. Samuel's gaze remained on the HR emails. No, it was the first decision he had spoken aloud. Derek's professional mask held, but only barely. No. No closed office. No local resolution. No report written by the person named in the report. Maya lifted another printed page. There is still a limitation. The server proves DS09 was used. The access records narrow control. The pattern is substantial. But unless we establish who physically used the card, Mr. Sloan can claim another employee took it. Tasha stared at the floor. Derek's breathing steadied, as if he had found the final gap he could live inside. Marcus looked toward Vanessa's phone. The red live symbol was gone, but the cloud icon remained. Somewhere beyond the edited clip, beyond the comments and mockery, the original recording had preserved the corner of Register 2 at 9:03. Maya followed his gaze. We have requested the full cloud file, she said. It will take time to verify the metadata. Samuel looked at the 7 names, then at Aaliyah, and finally at the counter where the accusation had begun. "Not behind a closed door," he said. "Tomorrow morning. Here." Every affected employee, labor representation, and law enforcement present. We read the evidence where the accusation was made. Derek's face remained composed, but his hand closed around the empty blue folder until the cardboard bent. The truth was not complete yet. It was already too large to hide. By 8 the next morning, Register 2 no longer looked like an ordinary checkout lane. The candy racks had been rolled aside, the security monitor faced the counter, and a folding table stood beneath the sign that still promised our people our family. Receipt 416, the sealed $40 envelope, the X-read, and receipt 418 waited inside clear evidence sleeves. Between 416 and 418, Maya Chun had left an empty space. Marcus entered with Nia's hand inside his. He had slept less than 2 hours. His navy delivery jacket still smelled faintly of gasoline and cold night air, and the skin beneath his eyes had darkened, but he did not walk in like a man arriving to win. He walked in because 7 names had appeared on a screen, and leaving now would mean letting those names disappear again. Nia stayed beside Lena Ortiz and a labor representative near the customer service desk. She held her purple backpack on her lap and did not speak. Aaliyah stood behind Register 2 in the same green apron she had worn the night before. Samuel Brooks remained several feet behind her, silent, his hands resting on the back of a metal chair. Derek arrived last. His white shirt was fresh, his blue tie perfectly straight, and the bent folder from the night before had been replaced by a new one. "Before this begins," he said, "I need the record to reflect that the scene was compromised by an unauthorized customer." Maya looked at him. "Explain." Mr. Reed handled receipts, directed an employee, placed personal cash near the register, photographed proprietary information, and encouraged public filming. Ms. Brooks also displayed knowledge of outdated procedures that suggests prior preparation. His tone was measured, almost regretful. "I am not accusing anyone of conspiracy. I am asking everyone to consider how easily a frightened employee and an emotional customer can create a false pattern." A few people shifted in their chairs. It was a careful argument because parts of it were true. Marcus had touched his own receipt. He had placed money on the counter. He had asked questions. Aaliyah had known a policy absent from the current manual. Vanessa folded her arms. "He told me to keep recording," she said. "Exactly," Derek replied. He understood that public pressure would make normal management decisions appear suspicious. For one brief moment, the room seemed to lean back toward him. Marcus felt Nia's fingers close around Lena's hand. Derek opened his folder and removed a printed statement. "There is another possibility. My manager card was stored in the office. Ms. Green had access to the area. She was concerned about Ms. Brooks's performance. She may have used my credentials and panicked when the shortage was discovered." Tasha's face went white. "You said the card stayed in your desk." "I said it was normally kept there. You told me to support your report. I told you to be truthful." Derek turned toward Maya. "Her changing statements are more reliable evidence than a delivery driver arranging documents for dramatic effect." Marcus did not answer the insult. He walked to the folding table and placed receipt 416 at the left edge. Vanessa's lipstick mark still stained one corner. Then he placed the X-read beside it, followed by the sealed envelope and receipt 418. He left the same narrow space Maya had left before. "I arranged what I saw," he said. "Not what I wanted it to mean." Derek gave a small, patient smile. "And yet receipt 417 is not there. That is why the space is." Maya asked Marcus to describe only his direct observations. He told them Vanessa held 416. He told them his purchase produced 418. He told them Derek covered a torn strip near the printer, called the missing transaction a refund before the report appeared, and attempted to restart the terminal after the X-read showed 903. He did not mention Derek's motive. He did not call him a thief. When Lena began crying quietly behind him, Marcus paused, pulled an empty chair closer to her, and waited until she Saturday. "I'm not here to bury anyone," he said. I'm here because the truth was buried before. Maya placed the time clock report on the table. Aaliyah's POS login was 9:07. Tasha's receiving area activity continued until 9:06. Derek's keycard opened the management office at 8:59 and recorded his exit at 9:05. Derek looked at the paper without touching it. That still does not prove who held the override card. Correct, Maya said. The word gave him room to breathe again. He turned toward the gathered employees. There. That is the limitation I have raised from the beginning. A code is not a person. A door log is not a camera. Anyone could have taken the card before I entered the office. Samuel's fingers slowly tightened on the chair. He still said nothing. He was waiting to see whether Derek would retreat from the lie or build another wall around it. Maya nodded to a technician beside the security monitor. The screen turned black, then displayed the cloud archive from Vanessa's phone. Vanessa shifted uneasily. I only posted part of it. The cloud retained the original file, Maya said. Metadata confirms continuous recording. The video began at 9:01. Vanessa's own voice filled the store, complaining about a coupon while receipt 416 printed. The image shook as she turned toward the counter. At 9 hours 2 minutes and 48 seconds, Derek crossed the far corner of the frame. A plastic card hung from his fingers. At 9 hours 3 minutes and 11 seconds, he leaned over register 2 and passed the card across the scanner. A green light flashed. At 9 hours 3 minutes and 18 seconds, the cash drawer opened. The room became so still that the hum of the drink cooler sounded like distant machinery. Derek's recorded hand reached into the drawer and lifted 2 $20 bills. At 9 hours 3 minutes and 31 seconds, a receipt emerged. He tore it free, folded it once, and slid it inside the blue folder. Then his voice came through the phone's microphone, quieter than the image but unmistakable. The new girl will cover it before closing. Tasha covered her mouth. Derek did not look at her. The angle is incomplete, he said. I may have been correcting an earlier customer refund. The cash could have been transferred to the office for reconciliation. It was fast but not foolish. He was still building explanations where the video left inches of space. And the sentence? Maya asked. Taken out of context. Then the office ledger should show the transfer. Derek's eyes moved toward the back office. Assuming the ledger was completed before the disruption. For the second time, it seemed possible he had found a narrow passage out. The video showed him using the card and removing money, but he could still claim an authorized correction badly documented. Maya let the silence sit. Then she placed a maintenance log on the table. The back-office exception printer automatically creates a duplicate whenever a cash refund uses manager override. Derek's head lifted. That printer has been out of service. Since when? Several weeks. Maya turned the page toward him. A service entry showed a paper replacement completed 3 days earlier. The signature at the bottom read Derek Sloan. His pen stroke cut sharply through the S. You signed that the printer was operational, Maya said. The technician carried out a clear evidence bag containing a narrow thermal. Receipt found beneath the closing reports in the printer tray. Derek stared at it. He had controlled the register, the office, the local complaint files, and the story told to employees. He had forgotten the machine designed to make a second copy. Aaliyah stepped forward but did not remove her apron. Before anyone says my last name, she said, I want this answered as if I had no family in this room. Does the evidence clear me? Maya looked at the video timestamp, the login record, the manager code, and the duplicate receipt inside the bag. Yes, she said. Completely. No one applauded. The silence was too heavy for celebration. Samuel released the chair and walked toward register 2. Maya opened the evidence bag, lifted receipt 417 with gloved fingers, and held it above the empty space between 416 and 418. Samuel looked first at Aaliyah, then at Marcus, then at the 7 former employees waiting to hear whether their names would finally be returned to them. He stepped beside the table and said, Before I tell you who this cashier is, read the receipt aloud. Maya lowered receipt 417 into the empty space between 416 and 418. Cash refund, she read.
$40.
9:03 p.m. Manager override DS-09. No customer signature. The thin strip of thermal paper touched the glass tabletop with a sound so small it should have disappeared, yet everyone heard it. The drink cooler hummed behind the silent chairs. A phone vibrated once inside someone's coat, then stopped. Derek stared at the 3 receipts lined in sequence as though the numbers had become a locked door. Maya pointed to the screen. The cloud video shows Mr. Sloan scanning the DS-09 card at 9 hours 3 minutes and 11 seconds. The drawer opened 7 seconds later. He removed 2 $20 bills, tore off the receipt, and said the new cashier would cover the shortage before closing. She placed the service log beside the duplicate. The back-office printer produced this copy. Mr. Sloan signed 3 days ago that the machine was operational. Derek's fingers loosened around his new folder. It slipped against the edge of the chair and fell flat on the tile. No one bent to retrieve it. There must be another explanation, he said, but the practiced warmth had left his voice. The transaction may have been a legitimate correction. Maya looked at the reason code. Then where is the customer authorization? It may not have been required. It was. The register may have assigned my credentials automatically. The video shows you scanning the card. Derek looked toward Samuel. Sir, this has become unnecessarily public. We should suspend the meeting and allow counsel to review the context. Samuel did not answer him. He looked at Aaliyah instead. She stood behind register 2 in the green apron, her hands resting on the same counter where Derek had placed the reimbursement form the night before. Her face was calm, but her breathing was shallow. Maya turned toward her. The login record confirms you did not access the POS until 9:07. The refund occurred 4 minutes earlier. The time clock, keycard log, cloud video, manager directory, duplicate receipt, and server record all agree. Aaliyah swallowed. So if I were anyone else, you would still be cleared, Maya said. Completely. The words entered the room without applause. Lena Ortiz covered her mouth with both hands. Tasha lowered her eyes. Vanessa's phone hung beside her thigh now, its camera pointed toward the floor. Marcus felt Nia's fingers find his from behind the chairs. She did not ask a question. She simply held on and let out a breath she seemed to have been carrying since the night before. Samuel stepped forward. The evidence cleared this cashier before I entered the room, he said. His voice was quiet enough that everyone leaned toward it. Her innocence does not depend on my opinion, my money, or my name. He paused beside Aaliyah. The distance he had maintained all morning disappeared. Her name is Aaliyah Brooks. She is my daughter. Vanessa's face changed first. The color drained beneath her makeup. Tasha's head lifted sharply. A murmur began near the back wall and died almost at once. Derek looked from Samuel to the brass B01 badge lying on the table. Recognition arrived too late to help him. Samuel continued. Aaliyah has been working at entry-level positions throughout this company as part of a confidential operational apprenticeship. She was reviewing turnover, employee treatment, and the way complaints were handled at store level. He placed one hand near the badge but did not pick it up. But receipt 417 would prove her innocence if she had no father, no money, and no name anyone here recognized. The room went still in a deeper way. The accusation had not merely fallen apart. Every person who had measured Aaliyah by her apron and Marcus by his delivery jacket was forced to see what their judgment had hidden. Derek opened his mouth. Only a dry breath came out. Maya placed 7 payroll records beside receipt 417. The same override code appears on each disputed refund. Each transaction occurred shortly before a new employee logged in. Each was followed by a reimbursement form or payroll deduction. Each complaint was returned to local management and closed under Mr. Sloan's credentials. Lena's pay stub lay at the top of the stack. Her name was no longer a rumor. It was evidence. A financial crimes investigator stepped forward and asked Derek to surrender his manager card, office key, and company phone. Derek removed the card slowly. His hand shook once when the plastic caught on the clip. Am I under arrest? You are being referred for investigation, the officer said. Do not destroy, alter, or remove any company records. Maya added, your access is suspended effective immediately. Derek looked toward the employees he had supervised. No one mocked him. No one raised a phone to his face. The absence of cruelty made his isolation more complete. Tasha began to cry quietly. He promised me assistant manager, she said. He told me Aaliyah would be gone by the end of the week. He said I only had to confirm she was careless. Maya held out an evidence sleeve. You will provide the messages and a formal statement. Cooperation does not erase your responsibility, but it will be documented. Tasha nodded and surrendered her phone. Vanessa cleared her throat. I can delete the video. Marcus turned toward her. Don't. She looked startled. You want it left online? I want the original preserved. I want the correction posted where the accusation was posted. And I don't want my daughter's face used in any version of it. Vanessa glanced at Nia, then lowered her eyes. I'll blur her. You'll remove her completely, Samuel said. Our legal team will confirm it. Marcus looked at him. Not your public relations team. Samuel accepted the correction without offense. An independent representative, then. Maya slid the 7 former employees' files toward Samuel. The company will need to determine remedies. Samuel looked down the line of names. Not determine whether they deserve remedies. Determine how quickly they receive them. He announced an independent audit of all manager overrides and wage deductions across the chain. Every employee forced to reimburse a disputed shortage would be contacted. Their records would be corrected, their money returned with any legally required interest, and each case reviewed outside local management. The policy allowing store-level supervisors to close complaints against themselves was suspended immediately. Legal support would be offered through an outside firm, not company counsel. Marcus listened without smiling. When Samuel finished, he pointed to the 7 files. Call them before you issue a press release. Samuel nodded. We will. Put the corrections in writing. We will. And don't make them sign something to get their own names back. Samuel's eyes rested on Marcus for a long moment. We won't. Maya lifted the sealed brown envelope from beneath the camera. The signatures remained unbroken across the seam. She cut it open in front of the room and removed the 2 worn 20s Marcus had placed there. Samuel took them, crossed the small distance to Marcus, and set them on the counter exactly where Marcus had left them. This belongs to you, he said, and I owe you an apology. My company forced a father with $43 to purchase time for a fair investigation. Marcus looked at the bills but did not pick them up immediately. Don't thank me for standing there, he said. Fix the reason someone had to. Samuel's face tightened with shame rather than anger. I intend to. Intention isn't a policy. Then judge me by what changes. Marcus finally folded the 2 20s and returned them to his worn wallet. Nia leaned against his arm, her purple backpack resting against his knee. Across the counter, Aaliyah watched him without the protection of anonymity for the first time. She was no longer only the frightened cashier he had defended. She was the daughter of the man who owned the building, part of the system that had failed 7 people, and the woman who had chosen not to use her name to escape what another employee would have suffered. Samuel asked Marcus to remain after the meeting. He mentioned a private conversation, an opportunity, and the possibility that Brooks Markets could use someone with his judgment. Marcus looked at Aaliyah, then at Nia, then at the 7 corrected files waiting to become more than promises. Not today, he said. He took his daughter's hand and walked toward the automatic doors. Behind him, the investigation had begun, Aaliyah's name had been restored, and power had finally moved to the side of evidence. But as the doors opened to the cold morning air, one question followed Marcus into the parking lot. Now that the truth had offered him recognition, what would he choose to do with it? The crowd did not leave Brooks Market all at once. They drifted out in small groups, speaking in low voices, glancing back at Register 2 as though the narrow checkout lane had become something larger than a place to buy milk and batteries. The financial crimes investigator escorted Derek toward the office to surrender his remaining access codes. No one followed him with a camera. No one laughed. Marcus had asked for evidence, not humiliation, and the difference settled over the store like the quiet after a hard rain. Outside, he buckled Nia into the passenger seat of the old delivery van and placed the 2 returned 20s inside his wallet. The fuel light still glowed when he turned the key. Aaliyah stood beneath the store's awning in her green apron, the brass B01 badge closed inside her hand. She did not call after him. She seemed to understand that gratitude could become another form of pressure when offered too quickly. Marcus raised one hand through the windshield, then drove toward the nearest gas station with Nia leaning sleepily against the window. 3 months later, receipt 417 appeared again, but not where anyone expected. It was no longer folded beneath Derek's palm or sealed inside an evidence bag. A clean duplicate had been printed inside a new training manual beneath the words "Preserve the record before assigning blame." The names of Marcus and Aaliyah were removed. The lesson belonged to every employee. An independent review found 7 former workers who had been forced to reimburse disputed shortages connected to DS09. Their money was returned with the interest required by state law. Their personnel files were corrected. Each received a written apology that did not require a waiver, a confidentiality clause, or a promise to stop asking questions. Lena Ortiz returned to the store one afternoon to collect her amended record. Maya Chun met her at the customer service desk, not in a back office. The paper no longer described her departure as theft-related misconduct. It stated that the shortage accusation had been unsupported and improperly handled. Lena read the sentence twice. Her fingers shook against the page. Marcus had come only because she asked him to be there. He stood beside the magazine rack in his navy delivery jacket, giving her enough distance to own the moment herself. "They fixed it," Lena whispered. "They corrected the record," Marcus said. "You fixed the part that came after." She folded the document carefully and placed it inside the same plastic sleeve where she had kept the old pay stub for months. No applause followed. The hum of the overhead lights continued. A register opened near the bakery, and a child asked his mother for gum. Yet Lena's shoulders lifted as if something heavy had finally been removed from them. Tasha remained employed under a final warning agreement after turning over her messages and cooperating with the investigation. She lost the promised promotion and completed ethics training under supervision outside Store 7. When she asked Aaliyah for forgiveness, Aaliyah did not offer instant absolution. "I believe people can change," she told her. "But trust has to watch that change happen." Tasha accepted the boundary. Vanessa posted the unedited correction where she had posted the accusation. Nia's image was removed completely. Her statement acknowledged that Marcus had never threatened anyone, touched anyone, or interfered with evidence. The original video remained preserved for the investigation, but the mockery stopped circulating once the truth was attached to it. Samuel Brooks did not name a charity after Marcus or send a ceremonial check to his home. He did something harder. He allowed outside investigators to publish the failures that had occurred under his leadership. Brooks Markets ended local control over complaints involving store managers, required 2-person approval for cash refunds, prohibited wage deductions before independent review, and created a locked disputed cash box at every location. At Store 7, the box was installed behind Register 2. Above it hung a simple sign: "No employee will be judged before the evidence is checked." Samuel asked Marcus once more to join the company. Marcus declined the first offer because it had been made before any position existed and felt too close to repayment. Months later, when Brooks Markets advertised for a logistics coordinator to redesign delivery exceptions and emergency scheduling, Marcus submitted the same application as everyone else. He did not mention Aaliyah in the interview. He completed a routing exercise, reviewed an inventory discrepancy, and identified 3 places where a driver could be penalized for delays caused by the company's own loading process. Then he proposed a system allowing single parents to exchange emergency routes without losing an entire week's performance rating. Maya watched from the end of the table. Why include that? One interviewer asked. Marcus looked at the printed schedule. Because a system can be accurate on paper and still punish the wrong person. He received the job 2 days later. The offer letter cited his judgment, restraint, record discipline, and ability to see the human cost hidden inside routine procedures. Samuel signed it but did not increase the salary beyond the established range. Respect, Marcus understood, was clearest when it did not need favoritism to prove itself. Aaliyah completed her frontline apprenticeship rather than accepting an immediate executive office. She met every former employee affected by the reimbursement policy without cameras or public relations staff. Some forgave her family. Some did not. She listened to both. With Marcus, she moved even more slowly. Their first conversations happened over coffee after his shift, when Nia was with her grandmother. Aaliyah asked about his wife only after Marcus brought her up. She did not offer to replace what had been lost. She spoke instead about the strange loneliness of never knowing whether people were responding to her character or her last name. Marcus understood more than he expected. Poverty and wealth had placed them on opposite sides of many doors, but both knew what it meant to be looked at without being seen. When Aaliyah began joining Marcus and Nia for occasional dinners, she arrived without expensive gifts. She brought library books, helped clear the table, and asked Nia before attending a school art night. Nia never had to call her anything except Aaliyah. One evening, the three of them stopped at Store 7 after Marcus finished work. He still wore the same faded navy jacket Vanessa had once used as proof that his voice did not matter. Behind Register 2, the disputed cash box reflected the white fluorescent light. Beside it, the training copy of Receipt 417 sat beneath clear plastic. Nia read the new sign slowly, sounding out the longest word. Then she looked up at her father. "Did your $40 change all this?" Marcus touched the wedding ring resting beneath his shirt. Aaliyah stood quietly beside them, not asking him to release the past, only showing that she was willing to stand near it. "No, sweetheart," Marcus said. "The truth changed it. I just stayed long enough to make sure it wasn't left alone." For several seconds, none of them spoke. The silence held no shame, no fear, and no one waiting to be exposed. It was the kind of silence that came when a child felt safe. A woman's name had been returned to her, and a tired man finally understood that opening one door did not mean closing the one behind him. Then Marcus took Nia's hand, Aaliyah walked beside them, and Receipt 417 remained under the light. A thin strip of paper that had never raised its voice, yet had carried the truth farther than cruelty ever could.